Welcome to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. Today, you are going to learn or recap, as the case may be, about Hexagram 6, conflict, friction, the fundamental design component of progress, the law that growth cannot exist without friction. Hexagram 6 is part of third trimester of Jupiter, trimester of duality, where we accomplish our purpose through relationships, connections, co-creating in relationships, according to mystical theme, measure for measure. Gate 6 corresponds to goddess Harmonia, the goddess of family harmony, cordial relations, and courage. The opposite is discord. Zodiac sign, Virgo. Gate 6 flows within the tribal defense circuit, which is about offering and receiving support, about touch, timeless. It's not about the past or about the future. Keyword, offering and receiving support. The opposite gate is number 36, the crisis resolution, the darkening of the light, relevant organ, mesenteric plexus, lumbar ganglions, amino acid, glycine, center, emotional center, solar plexus, which is about consciousness of spirit, emotional and social consciousness, passion, abundance of spirit, states and sensitivities, desire, feelings, tarot card associated, 3 of Swords. The harmonic gate is number 59, intimacy, dispersion, sexuality. Gate 6 and 59 connects, forming the generated channel 59-6, the channel of connecting, a channel of reproduction, a design focused on reproduction. So analyzing the harmonic gate, we see that Gate 6 in third trimester in Jupiter forms the channel with Gate 59, located in the same third trimester of Jupiter, connecting to Thoth archetype. So, we have to observe that Harmonia and Thoth forms a channel within the same third trimester in the kingdom of Jupiter, connecting glycine of Harmonia's Gate 6 with Valine of Thoth in his Gate 59. You will not find any glycine or Valine in another trimester or deity, except for those already mentioned. It is also relevant for the message and functioning of 6th gate to observe that amino acid glycine is the same as for all the gates of Harmonia, meaning 6, 47, 64, 40. The principal function of glycine is acting as a precursor to proteins. Most proteins incorporate only small quantities of glycine, a notable exception being collagen, which contains about 35% glycine due to its periodically repeated role in the formation of collagen's helix structure. Glycine is not widely used in foods for its nutritional value, except in infusions. Instead, glycine's role in food chemistry is as a flavorant, and it also has preservative properties. Glycine has been researched for its potential to extend life. The proposed mechanisms of this effect are the ability to clear methionine from the body and activating autophagy. Glycine is not essential to the human diet, as it is biosynthesized in the body from the amino acid serine. Remember that your body naturally produces glycine from other amino acids, but it's also found in protein-rich foods and available as a dietary supplement. Glycine helps your body make glutathione, an important antioxidant that protects your body against cell damage. Glycine helps your body make glutathione, an important antioxidant that protects your body against cell damage. Glycine is not essential to the human diet, as it is biosynthesized in the body from the amino acid serine. Remember that your body naturally produces glycine from other amino acids, but it's also found in protein-rich foods and available as a dietary supplement. Maybe we can improve our level of glycine by understanding our Gate 6, in that specific line, in our personal life. As a consequence, Valine of Gate 59, in the channel of mating, shall be positively influenced. Very impressive for a non-essential amino acid. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of Gate 6, now let's dive into the 6th gate message and energy. While the emotional center relates directly to many of the conflicts we encounter in life, war, fighting, domestic violence, addictions, autism, all kinds of breathing problems, digestive problems, and so on, Gate 6 controls the environment in which the whole emotional scene plays out. It tends to control how these conflicting emotions get to be expressed, and this is where it opens up the possibility for emotional evolution and resolution into a world at peace and comfortable with all the ups and downs of life. So, we have the 6th gate in the channel of mating, a design focused on reproduction. Conflict, the gate of friction. Its energy is the hope and pain wave of intimacy. Its potential is the awareness, or let us put it this way, the emotional wave, whether to bond or not. The channel of intimacy. Understand how the wave works. The wave does not take you from one side of the line to the other. Don't confuse this. The emotional wave is not going to take you from the exalted to the detriment and back again. You will get that from meeting people who will have planets in those positions and are going to fix to you in one end of the wave or the other. You have the transits that do that, as in any other process in the chart. The thing to recognize about the hope and pain wave, and I will illustrate that to you as we go through the lines, is that it operates in each part of the line. There is a hope and pain aspect to every part of these lines, whether we call them exalted or in detriment. The exalted will have a hope and pain wave, and the detriment will have a hope and pain wave. The wave is not going from one to the other. Be clear about this. The 6th gate is the gate of the pH in our biology, and this is what establishes the barriers. If you look at the heading of the 6th gate in the Rave I Ching, it says, the fundamental design component of progress, the law that growth cannot exist without friction. You may know that on the other side, the 50th gate is tribal law. Here in the 6th gate, we have biological law. Life, reproduction, cannot exist without friction, without this gate. There are many things in that. The 6th gate is the place where the motor sits. That is the motor that generates these 6 different waves. The thing to keep in mind about the nature of this gate is its mystical mystery, because this law about growth is rooted in this wave. We would never be in an evolutionary field unless we were living in the emotional wave. The emotional wave is what makes the general field fertile, and that fertility is not just about reproducing children. The emotional field is a fertile field. It can also be sterile. That is the other side. The 6th gate carries within it this law that growth cannot exist without the motor. That is why, the moment somebody has the 6th gate and they step into your life, they dominate your frequency because they come with the power of that motor which stimulates growth. By the way, if you are not in resonance with that power, it may do exactly the opposite. In other words, it can begin a process of decay that leads to friction and conflict in the mundane sense. It is very important to see that this gate has enormous power. It is a gate of fusion. It fuses feelings, moods, and sensitivity. These 3 streams that move through the solar plex center. In a sense, what you are really seeing is that out of the 6 and out of its motor come those 3 streams. They are born out of or grow out of this law of the 6th gate. What we call feelings or moods is rooted here. The key is that each line that I am about to take you through in the 6th gate resonates with a wave. Each line is, in that sense, the fundamental expression of each of these aspects of the wave. You must think of them as 6 different gears, and each of them are expressed in a specific language for each of the lines in the 6th gate. The 6th gate is constantly monitoring the emotions. What are my feelings? Where are my feelings? Are they going up? Are they going down? You know that emotions are always swinging and waving in a flux. Our emotional responses can open us up to all sorts of pleasurable experiences, but they can also lead to pain and destructive pathways and patterns. So, the sixth gate's job is to evaluate, reevaluate, and determine whether to go with the emotions or to take a step back. It's a call to find your emotional equilibrium. The lines of Gate 6 will give a hint for that. Walking through the 6 lines of the Gate 6, it's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 6th gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 6 plays its role and become part of the purpose. Gate 6, Line 1, Retreat. We start with the first line. We are talking about the foundation of intimacy, about the line of introspection, and this first line says, retreat. This is one of the first things to recognize about the nature of the emotional system. When it comes to intimacy, the very first lesson of this hexagram is to wait. It is about retreat. Wait and see. The realization that wasting one's resources against overwhelming odds is not courage but folly. The moment that you step into that role relationship, the 59th gate is the role in which you find intimacy. You have to be very clear because you are in the wave. What felt good today can feel terrible tomorrow, and there is nothing that you can do about that. Pluto exalted, the power of regeneration that can embrace retreat as a phase and not as a failure. On the other side, the inferiority complex, where retreat is experienced as personal weakness. What we have here in the first line is the wave of weakness and strength. This is the nature of all intimacy. This first line is the foundation after all. What has to be examined, what has to be looked into, what the introspection is into the weakness and the strength. Both of them have to be revealed. One of the things that should be reminded to emotional people is that when you meet somebody, tell them, I'm an emotional person. You may not like me tomorrow. If they are ready to take a chance and see what you are like tomorrow, everything will be a little bit easier in your relationship. But if they discover that themselves, you will get all that wave back on you because they are going to mirror that emotional wave. The emotional stability to accept conflict. Think about how that emotional stability works with a wave of weakness and strength. You can feel weak, and in that moment you accept intimacy. It does not mean that you are unstable because you are weak. You can be very stable and recognize that you are weak, and you need the intimacy to give yourself strength. At the same time, you can have the emotional stability to accept intimacy from the strength of your wave. Guess what? You get both because it is the wave. The thing to recognize about looking at any aspect of any line in any hexagram in the emotional system is that the line is always going to work both ways. It is going to work for both sides of the wave and everything in between as it moves through the arc of that wave. So you will always get both sides. If it is fixed, you get both sides of the side that is fixed. Emotional instability in times of conflict. When you are weak and unstable, you will accept intimacy. Or when you're strong and unstable, you will accept intimacy. It does not make any difference. It is still going to operate in the wave. You will always get both ends. The nature of this first line tells us the most important thing about all of our bonding. To recognize so clearly that we, as the byproducts of our parents' relationships, have been brought into the world ignorantly. We have been brought into the world based on these genetic imperatives that are much more powerful than we are. The very first step that we can take in lowering the chaos level in the world at the moment is to honor the first rule of the law of growth. Don't be in such a hurry to create the growth. This law says, better that it is a fine tree than a lot of weeds. You have to see where the seed should be planted and when the seed should be planted and with whom before one goes out and decides that life is going to end up as a garden. This is very important because we do not listen when it comes to our emotions. Emotions make us deaf and blind. When it comes to intimacy, it can make us deaf and blind and dumb. The first law is, wait a second, You are very nice. I would have married you yesterday, but today I don't feel like it. I wait and check it out and I will see. This is the foundation of the house of intimacy. Gate 6, line 2, the gorilla. When we get to the second line, we get to projection. The projection wave is the wave of advance and withdrawal. Remember about the nature of the 6, that it is always looking to the 59. After all, that is the other side, the genetic roles that are being played out on the other side. The second line is not introspective. It is not looking into the relationship at all. It is not looking into what the nature of intimacy is. It is not looking at the weakness and strength. It is just the kamikaze. It is either going into full advance or racing back in full withdrawal. It is one or the other. That wave is going to operate on either side of the line. The gorilla, not to be confused with the animal, though sometimes they are similar. The ability to maximize an inferior position because it does not know the nature of intimacy. It hasn't looked into what intimacy is. This is why this line can often be non-fertile, because it has not looked into the nature of intimacy through timely contact and withdrawal. This wave of advance and withdrawal is already built into the nature of this line. Venus exalted. Aesthetic sensitivity and mental detail can find the weakest point. The ability to advance and the built-in wave of withdrawal. The withdrawal always reveals, within the beings themselves, their own weak points, and out of that, they learn when to advance against the weak points of others. It is a mechanism that teaches them where others are weak emotionally. These are great button pushers. They can go exactly to that button, and they go ding dong, and the emotional wave rises in that moment out of the projected field. Mars in detriment. The kamikaze, striking but moot. Kamikaze can be beautiful. These people that lunge into relationships like there is no tomorrow. They've taken their oath to the emperor and they dive into their relationships blindly, aiming for the heart. They often crash violently. In the White Book we have the sensitivity to find the weakest point in a conflict and to exploit it emotionally. But you have to know that it will operate in a wave. Sometimes that sensitivity advances at the weakest point. Sometimes the weakest point is to withdraw from it. These people can really withdraw. They can project the other away in that sense. In other words, they know when somebody will need them emotionally and they can automatically withdraw from it because they know that this is their weakest point and that they can't get it then. Or they can project the emotional field on the other side. Underneath, a lack of sensitivity that blunders into conflicts. These relationships are non-productive, but at the same time, like all non-productive things, they have a value. It is like my trivia that I keep collecting. Eventually, these people are very good in saying, this is a non-productive relationship, and that is a non-productive relationship, because they get to see it through the experience. The sixth gate contains in itself all these waves, and into the wave is built the experiential way. There is an experience in all of that, which has to be gathered. The difficulty with the 6.2 is that it is always either advancing or withdrawing without really grasping the nature of the intimacy. It can be a difficult line, like all second lines. Gate 6, line 3, allegiance. When we get to the third line, we get to the end of the lower trigram. We get to the line of adaptation, and this line is the first possibility of being able to really meet the other side. This is the end of the lower trigram process, and in that, the third line has the introspection and the projection and can be very fertile when it makes contact to the other side. The wave of this line is allegiance and rejection. It is making bonds and breaking them. This line is called allegiance, the ability to secure support and create strength out of a weak position. When connected to the harmonic gate 59, mating that results in conception. This is a deeply fertile line, Neptune exalted. The destruction of old forms through union. It is very important to understand this. This is bonds made and broken. This is there for genetic continuity because this is a very bad place to try to build a stable relationship. This is bonds made and broken. Bonds made and broken is part of the genetic strategy that is going to be there in the resonance to the sixth line when you go beyond what intimacy is. Here, in the third line, it is all about the fact that we have to make sure that the gene pool is full of the unusual so that we survive whatever future evolution is going to bring us. So this third line of allegiance is about the destruction of old forms through union. It is not bringing in the same old genetic material that you always had in your tribe. This is about bringing in something really new blood, new information. Usually, it was the traveling salesperson, either mundane as sexual union or exalted as universalization. Pluto in detriment. The rejection of allegiance as submission to established order. The whole nature of this is that the 59.3 in its detriment is promiscuity. This is bonds being made and broken. When you come to the book of letters, the depth of feelings that can enrich union and intimacy. On the other side, sensitivity to controls which may eventually reject intimacy. Think about how that works. These people will never like control. They will always be sensitive to control. When they are at their high end of the wave, it does not matter. When they are at the low end of their wave, it does. Somebody at the high end of their wave will submit themselves to the established order, to the bargain of the relationship, and at the low end of the wave will totally reject that. This is a genetic strategy to make sure that there is genetic diversity, which means that it can be a very difficult thing to handle in relationships. The couples who go through this process, which is rooted in the third line, they must recognize that the relationship cannot be what everybody else assumes it should be. These people have to take different vacations. They can live in different houses. They can have different lives, and they can have continuity in the bonds made and broken. This is the nature of the third line. If the relationship honors the mechanics, then the relationship can be healthy. That is true for any of these qualities of intimacy. The thing to recognize is that you are always having the wave operating in the line. That is why the waiting, the retreat, is necessary from the very beginning, so you can be clear about that. I am in the high end of my wave, and I can submit to this authority, but before I can make a commitment, let me see what it feels like when I am at the low end of my wave. Think about energies in houses and how nice it would be if, before you go into a place to buy or rent, they let you sleep there for 2 or 3 days so that you can really see what that energy is like. If you go in the house when you are at one part of your wave, you may feel that it's okay, and at the other part of the wave, it may not. The reality is that relationships are the most important thing for us. If you ask people what is really important to them, they will tell you that it is who they can love and who is there in their life. We should then consider how little attention we pay to that. We are so quick to jump on the nature of the wave without seeing, wait a minute, let us check it out. This is the whole thing about being emotional, waiting so that you can see. If you do not wait, you are never going to know, particularly when you are dealing with the third line. The third line has to learn how to adapt to bonds being made and broken. You will never trust them, but they make babies. Irresponsibility breeds. Gate 6, line 4, triumph. A position of natural and unchallengeable power, triumph. Here we have gone to the upper trigram. We have the line of externalization as a theme, and this is always fixed on a single track. The single track here is to be the dominant emotional force. It says, I'm going to put my emotions across. This is the externalization of the emotional field, getting the emotional field across. Sun exalted. The charity and wisdom that must come with victory and the movement toward new horizons. It already says, they have the victory. If one is focused and one-tracked and is displaying emotional energy, there is nothing that you will be able to do about that. They win. The only difficulty is when they are doing that with someone who is emotionally undefined, they get a very powerful mirror back. And then you have an enormous amount of emotional tension that gets built. Pluto in detriment. The conqueror and purger. The externalization of the emotional motor can be very painful. There is a joke in all of this. This is the wave of kindness and meanness. The movement of that energy, at one level, is that this power display of energy expresses itself as very kind. It is the emotional wave that overwhelms you with its kindness. It can also overwhelm you with its meanness. It can be very fixed in both. It can be fixed on being emotionally kind to you, and then the wave can be a lengthy one. It will flip over to the other side all of a sudden. The role on the other side is brotherhood, sisterhood. The strategy is that you are not going to be able to have sexual intimacy with someone until they are your friend. This is what it is all about. It is a strategy. I am not able to be penetrated or penetrate until this person is my friend, so that there is this power wave to create the intimacy. That power wave is either kind or mean. You might have observed that some people are enormously seductive by being mean. There is a whole world of masochists and sadists. It will always be there because it is part of the matrix. It is built into this line. In the book of letters, the power of emotions to dominate a relationship. The whole thing for these people is that in terms of the mundane, they are much better off with people in their lives who are already emotionally defined. They have a very difficult time with people who are undefined emotionally. Every time they display their power, they will get the mirror. That mirror can be so intense that it can lead to all kinds of real meanness. It can be explosive and violent, like all emotional things. The lack of emotional control that is destructive in relationships, that operates in the wave. Sometimes that lack of emotional control simply ends up being just kind. Then it is seeking out the kindness. It can be mean. It can be the other side. It will always move through the wave. But the thing to recognize about this line is that it is putting out this emotional process regardless. It does not matter what the situation is. It is the one that has to have the emotional control. It is the one that has to dominate in the emotional field. These are people that, if you are upset, they get more upset. If you are an emotional being and you have one of these people around, they will be more emotional than you over you being emotional. Your husband dies and they cry harder. That is their kindness. They can also be much meaner. You can see that with kids. One kid is mean and the next kid is meaner. The poor victim on the other side that used to be one of their friends. Gate 6. Line 5, arbitration. The fifth line is arbitration. The wave here is selfishness and selflessness, and this is all about seduction. This is about being the seducer and the seduced. We call it a line of universalization. All universalization is about seduction. This is the fulfillment of the hexagram, the faith derived from analytical diligence and emotional control that permits a higher authority to judge a conflict. That can be very mystical. What it really says is that time is the only authority that will allow clear assessment of the nature of any intimacy. Remember, this line is in resonance to the gorilla, to the projected field, and to the dilemma that comes out of advance and withdrawal. This is different. It is at a higher level. Venus exalted. Harmony furthered through the avoidance of direct conflict. That harmony is about the inner harmony. After all, you have to love yourself first. This is one of the laws about who is worthy of your love. Love yourself first. This is the first step. At that moment, you come to arbitration. Sensitivity to conflict can lead to the avoidance of intimacy. I will go up and down in my wave as an emotional being. I need to find harmony within myself, and not any old intimacy is going to work. I have to see which intimacy is best, and the moment I see, I will seduce it. If it allows me to seduce it, it is for me. That is the whole nature of seduction. The seducer and the seduced are one. On the other side of this is the moon in detriment, where a party to arbitration sees itself as the best possible judge and will only accept judgment if it is the victor. In the book of letters, insensitivity to the concerns of others in a conflict. This is really looking for what is the nature of the relationship. What kind of bargain will we have? What kind of house will we live in? Will we have a white picket fence? Will we have 3 or 7 children? What is built in here is a sensitivity to what the intimacy has to be, the universalization of what intimacy is supposed to be. This is all about being sensitive to the other and recognizing whether they are the right relationship for you. If not, don't have anything to do with it, because this kind of intimacy is there to lead to the production of children. The whole thing is that, unlike the third line, which is all about any kind of genetic material, as long as it is new and is going to change the old form, the fifth line is interested in intimacy that can be maintained, that can stand in time. So this insensitivity to the concern of others, one of the things to see about that is that the fifth line isn't looking for a dilemma in its relationship. It is looking for a harmonious relationship that will work. They are very fixed in that, and they do not put up with people who try to break into that harmony. They end up wanting to be the ones who are always the arbitrators, even at its best. Gate 6, line 6, the peacemaker. When you get to the 6th line, you get to the top of the house. You get to the line of transition. This 6th line, in its resonance to the 3rd line, is strongly fertile, like the 3rd line, but it is less likely to reproduce. It is looking for something much greater in that. What it is looking at has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with the world their children will live in. This is a deep look over the top of the roof, out into the world. If you could hear these people in their wave, they would say at the high end of the wave, I know that I have to have children, but in what kind of world will they live? At the low end of the wave it is, I know that I should have children, but it is a terrible world they will live in. On the other side they say, I am not going to have children because the world is awful, or I am not going to have children because I can't be sure that it will be a better world. This has nothing to do with the nature of direct intimacy, and in that sense, it can be something that can appear to be deeply apathetic. This is the wave of sympathy and apathy. It is in resonance to the role of the one-night stand. I remind people that this is deeply misunderstood, this one-night stand. That may be the only time that a 6th line will actually have an intimacy, maybe once in their life or maybe a lot, until they learn in their wave. The transition field is what will happen generationally. Remember, this is the defense circuit. This is where life is being generated. The law of growth for humanity is make more. Here it is not about who I will make more with. It is about what kind of world are my children going to live in. By the way, that can be deeply delusional. The peacemaker, the discipline and integrity of a superior force to unilaterally cease its conflict, to permit surrender and survival of its enemy. I know that the world out there will never allow my children to have a decent life, so I am not intimate with you. It can seem incredibly rational. I am not going to get involved with this relationship because I know that the result of this relationship will bring a hard time in the world. You hear these people make these kinds of comments all the time. Mercury exalted. The highest form of reason is that life is sacred. I know that I must have children, but what kind of world will they live in? This is that transition point. Venus in detriment. The peacemaker whose actions are correct, but whose terms are unacceptable. I know what kind of intimacy I would like to have with you as a person. I know what intimacy is. I am a 6th line, says this person. But I am not interested in that. I am interested in what world my children will live in. If it is not a good world, I don't want to have anything to do with this. What judges that? This is an emotional wave after all. In the Book of Letters, the emotional power to end conflict, tempered by feelings and sensitivity to others. If I will have children, I will have them with you. That is the sympathetic side. The apathetic side is not caring whether they understand why or why not. You will not engage in that intimacy. This is the whole thing to recognize about this 6th line. The 6th line here, particularly in this sense, doesn't have to engage in intimacy. Intimacy for them represents something much greater. The emotional power to end conflict, but only after one's conditions have been satisfied. They are always looking for a way in which they can be the ones who are in charge of the emotional quality of the relationship. They are the ones that are setting this condition for what the possibility can be. Often, these people end up with partners where they both work and try to make the world a better place. We have a lot of these sixth-line people. It is in the nature of the sixth line to make the world a better place. They are often couples who will be doing service work or dedicating their time to the community, working out that process. Here are my conditions. Let me establish the conditions. We have to work for a better world so that our children can come into a better world. When the emotional spirit awakens in the 55.6, the resonance will come from the sixth line. This would be the first aspect of the sixth gate that will have an emotional awareness that will lead to a whole new perception of the nature of the world. We will eliminate a lot of this fear that is there, that the sixth gate sees, the fear that the world can be a horrible place. The 6.6 looks over to the 46.1. They want to know that their children are in the right place at the right time. Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the sixth gate sustain or communicate the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the sixth gate, sixth hexagram, right angle cross of Eden 3, consisting of following gates: 6, 36, 12, 11. People who use their experience with conflict and crisis to hold the bond of intimacy together, gaining experience through the loss of innocence. So you were thrown out of Eden, or at least that may be what birth felt like to you. Many who carry this cross enter the world reluctantly, as the womb provides everything that is needed. Over time, you carry the energy to go out and explore the world and to live life. Ultimately, your energy is about exploration, not to make your way back to Eden, but to move forward and find a slice of Eden here on earth and then share it with those around you. Juxtaposition, cross of conflict, consisting of following gates: 6, 36, 15, 10. People who bridge the loss of innocence with a getting on with life attitude and create a fertile environment for companionship. Friendships, love emerging from crisis. The energy you bring to this life is about finding your opportunity through the relationships you establish. The conflict that you have to endure is finding balance between feeling tossed out of the Garden of Eden and finding joy living on the earthly plane. Part of you will struggle for Eden lost, and the other will revel in the joy of life. Use your relationships to find the opportunity to bring joy to your life. Left angle cross of the plane 2, consisting of following gates: 6, 36, 15, 10. People here to enjoy their work, while enticing us deeply into the material plane, so that we will always have what we need to love living in the social, material world. You are here to be an earthly guide. The energy of your cross is about life on the earthly plane. You are here to teach and be an example that by aligning ourselves with our human design, we will get what we need. Not perhaps what our mind thinks we need, but what our body and soul need. You are here to be the guardian of living successfully on the earth, in this material world. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening, and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative, learning materials regarding human design. Thank you.